Hi there, this is Zoe Nightingale, and you're listening to Nursery, a podcast from Ohio's Creative Voice.
Hi everybody, welcome to Nursery Podcast. My name is Lee Boyle, and today my guest is Angie DeNicholas. How you doing?
I'm good. Glad to be here.
Yeah, for listeners who are locals, you might know who she is. She has kind of a reputation for solo acoustic shows, coffee shops, bars, things like that. Lots of originals, like more and more. Am I correct in saying that? Originals is what you stand for if you didn't already. And so you had something in about 6 years ago, 2010, called Deep and Wild EP, right?
Yep.
So the EP, I guess this is predictable, but my favorite song is My Pocket.
Yeah.
Duh, because that's the single type song.
Yeah.
But I wanted to analyze. First, let's tell listeners where they can go to find you. What's the best place to find you, as far as the internet goes?
I'm on Spotify.
Okay.
And you can buy the CD on CD Baby if you want physical copy, and then I'm on iTunes.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't really have a website, so I just
Right.
have Facebook for my music.
That's cool. So listeners, if you have streaming service or something, or Facebook, just make sure you search ANGIE space DENICHOLAS and find that. That's her music. I think she's the only thing that'll come up on Spotify.
Yeah.
You might find her as a person, follow her playlist, but find the artist, the music. But anyway, so we'll talk about your new EP in a second, which I think is on the way. Is that correct?
Yeah, next month it's going to
Okay,
be out.
that's going to be awesome. And I'm going to play a show with you June 24th. We should plug that.
Yeah,
Cedars.
Friday, June 24th at Cedars Lounge.
10 p.m. doors or something like that.
Yeah, probably 10 p.m.
So, and I'll probably be playing solo as Third Class. And so, guys, make sure you come out to that. That's Cedars Lounge, 706 Steel Street.
And Bernadette's playing too.
Bernadette, that's awesome. So you guys, locals know what I mean. But anyone who stumbled upon this podcast, make sure you go find Angie DeNicholas on Spotify. So what people will find when they go there, as of this podcast, is a 2010 release, Deep and Wild. Mm-hmm. So I mentioned My Pocket, but there's songs, everything else on that album is more dark. That's the only one that's here's a pop song. Hey, everyone, hey. Yeah. And so you and I are around the same age, and we come from, born in the 80s, but we, can't help but have this 90s. Some people call it a stigma, but, it's a good thing, I think. And so when I hear you on there with a band, it's not so different from your solo. Not so much that I'm like, oh, what a departure. It's not the same person.
Yeah.
It's great. It works either way. But what I hear is all the parts of the 90s that we weren't influenced by. So it's actually great, because I think me and Jack and Peppy in Third Class do Presidents of the United States, Ben Folds 5, They Might Be Giants, Bare Naked Ladies even, something like that. Maybe a little less poppy than that, but somewhere in there. Mm-hmm. And when I hear you, I hear some of your said influences like Liz Phair, but I also hear traits of stuff I listened to a lot, but just didn't happen to pick up as far as influence, which was kind of like Dishwalla type stuff, Stone Temple Pilots, things like that.
Okay, yeah.
And Sheryl Crow, things but the difference is there's kind of this really delicate voice that pops in over the track. I hear you. There's times at the end of Soul where you start belting it out and you get wild, and that's cool. I guess that's why I call it Deep and Wild. But I hear the band pop in, which they sound great, by the way. And it sounds like for a second someone's going to be like, if it makes you happy, or like that. But it's great, because that's where you get me. It's that your voice is over those kind of tracks. That's the one difference, is you hear a band that's playing this kind of blues influenced 90s, hardcore blues. I could go on and on with bands that might insult you, but I mean it in the best way, Tonic, Dishwalla, Soul Asylum, that kind of stuff. Yeah. I hear the band sound like that, but the voice and lyrics are of this other personality. So that's what juxtaposes correctly for me. So where were you? I know it's 6 years ago now, but where were you in your life when you recorded that? Why did it come out that way? You know what I mean? Emotionally, where were you in your life?
It's funny because the album was so haphazardly put together. It was you have this much time, and it wasn't very much, and the musicians we didn't even meet together beforehand. We just kind of all recorded our parts.
Really?
Yeah.
It does not sound that
And it
way.
was a surprise when I went in the studio and heard everything. I was like, whoa! I didn't know that Soul was gonna sound all Sheryl Crow kind of thing, and I had no idea what it was going to sound like, and walking in, it was like a huge surprise. So I liked it because everything was just like, I trusted all the musicians to just do what they do. And yeah, I just had the bare bones, and then got the musicians together, gave them pretty much just the scratch tracks, and then they created whatever they wanted. And so it was just kind of a cool experimental, whatever came out thing. And I don't know, I was kind of like in my mid-20s, just kind of trying to find stuff to do. And
you weren't
I was
necessarily
actually,
in like a dark place necessarily or anything. It's not like it sounds
my
super
20s
dark.
were kind of all, you know, figuring it out. And I was actually, it was like in a period where I dropped out of grad school, and I was trying to see what I would do next. And so I was kind of getting everything together, and then I moved to Santa Fe like right before I could do anything like a CD release show or anything like that. So that's why I kind of just got it out there, and then that was it.
Okay, how long were you there then?
In Santa Fe, I was there for a year. It was like a weird thing where I went to visit my sister, and then she was like, "You should stay," and I stayed.
Wow.
So it was like I had 2 weeks worth of stuff. I was supposed to be there for 2 weeks, and then I just stayed. So it was just a weird, like, kind of do whatever period in my life. So that was definitely what kind of album it was. It was just like, oh, whatever happens.
Yeah, very. It's not that the tracks are tight in execution, but there's this looseness that I like about it. This flow that has this. Yeah, there's like there's layers and there's things like that. Yet I'm imagining that they didn't take your songs and like remold them so much that you were like, oh, what did you guys do to them or anything?
No,
so that's
that's what I
nice.
liked about it.
Yeah,
and it doesn't have like a super meticulous feel or anything like that, because I kind of like that, like that it's just very much representing where I was in that time. Like, I wrote songs in grad school. I remember I wrote My Pocket when I was like just feeling really sad, and I remember actually thinking about the lyrics from a Nirvana song when I like it was I Miss the Comfort of Being Sad. You know that song?
From what is that called? I Miss the Comfort of Being Sad.
Wasn't it? It's Francis Farmer.
Okay.
From In Utero.
Okay.
I miss the comfort of being sad.
It's been too long for me, unfortunately.
So I was like, I like had that sadness, and it was like a comforting sadness when I was there, because I just felt like a total outsider, loner person. I was in the middle of nowhere with no one. And I remember writing that like in a field, like a loser. I just had my guitar in the middle of all these flowers, and I was just writing My Pocket. And that's the kind of album that is. It was just like all of the songs were written just me being introspective, and then
So you wrote in a field in the moment. I have a hard time doing that. Like, I always end up like, say I'm in a field, and then 6 months later I'll write about being in that field. That's pretty cool that you kind of seem to be writing right in the moment of feeling lonely,
totally.
I'm guessing.
Yep.
That's hard to do. My brother Jack can do that. He, when we were on tour once in a while, was writing a thesis for grad school, which he did drop out of, like you.
Yep.
Then he came back and just finished it like a few days ago. Like but it was interesting because he's going through that phase a lot of people go through where they're like, man, I gotta go find myself, like what you're describing. And that happened in 2012 for us. We were on tour. He's by a river in New Jersey, and he's writing, and I'm like, how are you writing now? I look at the river, then write later. Like, and I'm jealous of that, because there's probably some details you pick up that you would never remember again if you didn't do it right then. And I know you weren't literally writing about the field, but you know what I mean, like whatever you were feeling the details of.
Yep.
But so we both have this like 90s thing happening in our music here and there and stuff. But what is, you and I off mic were talking about what we like and what decades we like, and I mentioned 70s, and some of the reason I like that is because our recordings tend to have holes in them and a little empty, or like all of a sudden, oh wait, there's weird little stops and starts and the bass falls out or whatever. And like so I tend to like, even though they're not my favorite artists, the aesthetic of New York Dolls and like Nick Drake was more of the 60s, I suppose, and then one album in 70 or whatever. But stuff like that, either the folk or the punk side of the 70s.
Totally.
And I don't think we were influenced directly, but indirectly rather. So I tend to like that. But tell me what you like about, like, what's your favorite decade of music? Is it the 90s?
Yeah, I would say so.
And why is that?
It's kind of like when I came of age in music. Like, that's when I discovered music, and that's when it was like a huge thing for me. Like, when I was younger, just picking up random grunge albums like Pearl Jam's 10, and I would just, it was almost like my own little thing that I could do and just listen to it on my own. And I don't know, I loved it. And I loved Throwing Copper by Live.
Yeah, I had the cassette.
Oh my gosh, the cassette.
Oh yeah,
was, like,
oh my god, you know you're gonna
out.
go. Yeah, it's Frog Stomp. I had the cassette of Frog Stomp Silverchair.
Yep.
I have to mention that, yeah, listeners, if you're not, I know you're not, but if you're an Ohio nerd and you listen to the gold mine of cool things around here, there is another podcast called Makeshift Podcast, and it's based on the Makeshift Volume 1 poets. Then Angie was a guest on there, and she mentioned Silverchair, and I freaked out when I heard it. And I was like, you got to come on Nursery Podcast now. And yesterday I was on Makeshift, and so
cool.
There's a big connection. So people that are listening, please go on iTunes or wherever, check out Makeshift Podcast, check out Almost Facts Podcast, both based in Warren, Ohio, and we're Nursery. Just go find Ohio things, because they're good. They're actually cool. Like, it's surprising. I'm seriously, as a fan, listening to a lot of people now, not just as, I'm Angie's friend, so I'm listening to her EP.
Listening.
Yeah, it starts that way with a lot of people, but then it goes somewhere. So, and you also mentioned on that podcast that the best day of your life was a day I was present for.
Yeah.
And so talk about that day.
Oh my gosh, I was so excited / nervous for it was like my first show that I played solo that wasn't an open mic, it was like a serious show.
And that was Lazy Bean Cafe in Columbia, Ohio. Okay.
And you were playing, I think you were solo.
It was just me solo,
Yeah.
okay. See, that's what I'm getting confused, because I know you and I have shared bills here and there and stuff, and it's unclear. Was it the street fair, or was it, no?
No, it was inside.
It
and
was,
then
yeah.
Rocco played too.
Okay,
Remember?
so Modern Life, Angie DeNicholas, third class solo, in 2007?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, I think
and so that was your
July.
first show that wasn't an open mic.
Yeah.
And so I just had booked something. See, I hate that I can't remember this better, but what did you feel that day? What was it like? You talked a little about this on Makeshift, but rehash it for us.
It was like everyone showed up for it, and I was really excited, and I loved you guys as musicians, so I was really excited to play with you. And I don't know, I just got to play my songs for people, and they were actually listening for the first time, and it was cool. And I did a couple covers. I remember I did the Dresden Dolls, Coin Operated Boy, and my dad was you shouldn't play that song anymore.
I remember this.
He didn't like it. But it was just really cool, and people from far away came to come and see me, so it was just really awesome. And it definitely sparked that fire of like, I want to do this more and more and more.
That's great.
That was like what I want to do, was like play a show.
Show. And you picked the best one. You picked a good one, because as you've probably learned since, there are shows where you're playing over people talking and stuff and it's fine. It's no one's being necessarily directly rude, but I'm glad you started in a place where people were sober and remembering song titles and watching, because that's hard. It's hard to get right sometimes for people. But and then also our connections kind of run deep with like everybody else who either attends shows and are musicians, so we have that. But we do have this synonymous like 90s thing happening, I think, that just like a lot of modern bands that I'm a fan of that are now active, like pop rock type bands that are like, I guess I want to name like Motion City Soundtrack and bands like that. You can tell, no question, that they were like listening to something like Everclear or Hootie and the Blowfish or something. They made it their own. So like I think I'm excited because I tend to like new stuff of old bands a lot. That's kind of where my favorite stuff lies. Like I like the President's newest album, 2014. Yeah, and then I like Hootie and the Blowfish's 2005 album.
Oh my gosh!
Looking for Lucky. It's really good.
No way.
Yeah. Oh, hey, did you have influence from them?
Not really. I never had their like albums or anything.
Okay.
I love their songs.
Yeah.
Just hear them on the radio, but I never sat down and listened to the album or got.
It's not like they're so different than the other bands I named, but I heard a little bit of their second album, Fairweather Johnson, in your EP, and I don't think it was a direct thing, obviously, but like they had this bluesy, like they definitely on their second album, they didn't take a hard left, but they went a little bit more like layered, and like the vocals kind of took a little bit more of a backseat, and it was more like everything's all a layer, and it was nice. But yeah, they Hootie and the Blowfish and bands like that, like I was a sucker for Collective Soul and Soul Asylum.
God.
Yeah, all that.
That album, the self-titled album, is I know every word of it. I listen
it's
to
awesome,
it.
Yeah.
5,
And it's not even like now it's that awesome, but it doesn't matter anymore because it has to be that
nostalgic.
awesome.
It's like in my heart more than anything.
It like doesn't matter. You can't separate because now. I'm not saying everyone is like this. I'm not trying to make a blanket statement, but now if you took your heart out of it, you'd be like, Well, these aren't that cool, but it doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
Like,
I can't even hear it.
No. And and you know what? With the guys in my band, Jack and Peppy, if we're on our way somewhere as a band or just hanging out, if I put that stuff on, they roll their eyes, but they have a good time with it. Like, I think I put on Precious Declaration from that, that album, or we listened to The Weight or something like that, and we couldn't help it. I mean, we sat there and sang that Radicchio style to it, and we were, that and all that 90s joke and stuff. But,
I didn't know there was a word for it.
Yeah, I don't know if that's the word, but it was, maybe we should call it like that macho singing style, right?
I don't know what it is.
Precious Declaration, all that stuff. But, you can make fun of anything, so it's all right.
Did it hardcore in their early albums.
What's that?
Silverchair did it so
bad. Yeah, Silverchair was insane.
And then he got rid of it.
Yeah. Tomorrow was wild, and then there was what was that song called Madman or something? There was just like a metal song.
Or Pure Massacre.
Yeah, that's what it was. Pure Massacre. And then Suicidal Dreams, Dream was good. Yeah. And then they had one, Israel's Son was awesome.
That was
the
very
opener.
Hardcore.
Yeah. Throwing Copper. My brother Jack got me into all the stuff you described me. He had Weezer on cassette and Presidents on cassette and Rancid Out Come the Wolves on cassette. Whoa. Yeah, it was weird. Yeah. And then I had Silverchair, and I think I had the CD of Seven Mary 3, like Cumbersome. Do you remember that? Yep. And stuff like that. So that stuff had a huge influence, but it was like taking what people layered and turning it into empty. You know what I mean? It was like, I'm just gonna do the little thing he does on guitar on Cumbersome over like nothing, instead of like how they did it, which was like some full lush drums.
Super duper,
yeah. It was weird. But so anyways, let's get back outside of music. You were out there trying to find yourself. Tell me, what did you find, like, now that you're back?
I think I just more so learned that I wanted to be here instead of there.
Mm-hmm. Did you go there in order to miss here? Did you know you were doing that at the time?
No, I don't think so. Mm-hmm. I just did it because I used to just do things just to see how it went, and just because I was bored, Yeah. So, yeah, now I appreciate being here and what I have here more than anything, because I would just do the normal things and get a job, and it would just be like, why am I doing this here? Mm-hmm. It was beautiful there, and I don't know, I miss the sunsets and the cool just things walking around the downtown area in Santa Fe. And
what did you do for work?
I made frames for pictures, because that's a huge art market out there, so I would just make these gigantic frames, and they would gild them with gold, and they were like so expensive, and rich Texan people would come in and buy all the art and stuff like that. But it was really fun because it was like super blue collar type thing, like sanding frames and barely making ends meet and stuff like that. But it was fun, but I missed home a lot.
Right. And so you said you came back after a year. What did home look like when you got back? Did you fall into old habits, or did you feel like you were starting again when you came back?
Yeah, it wasn't like I super jumped into anything different or anything. I came home around the holidays, so it just felt really natural and like, hey, let's just, spend time with the family. And then I didn't do a whole lot of anything different, but it was there that I knew I wanted to be. Because then I moved to Chicago after that too.
That's right. So you arrived in, what was the city again in California?
Oh, Santa Fe, New Mexico.
Santa Fe, Mexico, sorry. And you arrived there kind of like, hey, visiting, and then I'm staying. And then you arrived back probably knowing you were going to arrive back in Ohio to stay, but you kind of arrived the same way you arrived in Santa Fe, where you were like, oh, hey, I'm back, like as if I'm visiting, and I'm just going to kind of just slide back into life. So Chicago, talk about that then. What was different about that as opposed to Santa Fe?
It was so much more bustly, and there was more pressure to be a part of the whole grid, and stuff like that. It wasn't, because Santa Fe, it's like you feel like people's VW buses broke down. They're like, let's just stay. It's just kind of like crystals and I don't know. It was just crazy. The people there are so different than here. Really? And then in Chicago, it was a Midwestern feel, and big city feel. And I was just it just ate me up,
Really?
It was not my forte. No.
Do you feel like
So-
it would have been that way no matter what if it was a city in that style?
Yeah.
Like New York?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not really a city person.
No, neither am I. I love
Yeah.
visiting, but I'm with you there.
Yeah.
But was that the final nail in the coffin of like, hey, I'm gonna go stay in Ohio now, or is there more on the horizon for you where you're
No, I
like,
think I'm good.
Okay.
Like every time I got to a new city, I felt like it was like testing me and like really beat me up before, like to see if I could stay there and everything. And eventually I just gave up.
okay. I mean, hey, it sounds like I'm pandering to try to get you to say Ohio is the greatest or something, and I'm not. Like I've had
Well,
plenty
it
of
is,
guests, right?
Let's be honest.
Right. But I have plenty. I don't think I necessarily believe that, but I have plenty of guests who have either said that, but I've had a few that have been like, I can't wait, man. I'm out of here. I'm on my way to New York, or and they don't say they hate it, but they're like, I'm doing this, and they're in the phase you were then, or they're gone.
Yeah.
So you can't predict stuff like that. But so what do you do outside of music now here? I mean, you don't have to get into specifics, but what do you do like otherwise?
Well, for work, I've been a AmeriCorps volunteer for 2 years, so it's been kind of rough. But I've worked with kids, and I thought that that's always what I should have done. I probably should have got into like education instead of English, just for that reason. But
Yeah, I went to school for English too.
yeah. So I've been working with kids, tutoring them in reading, and it's been really fun and a lot of hard work. But now I'm going to go back to school again, get my master's in social work. So that's what I'm working towards right now. And then getting the new album out and planning a little tour in the
Great.
Midwest.
That's gonna be good.
Yeah, it's going to be really... It's my first tour that I've done. I've always thought about it, but never, like, pulled the trigger and did
Yeah,
it.
man. Yeah, I think. I mean, I'm no expert, but I think the key is to make sure that it's like paralleling a vacation at the same time.
Yeah,
So
totally.
that you're like, oh, this show is weird, but this is great to walk around in this city.
Yeah.
And this show was amazing, but this city is just okay.
Yeah,
hopefully
totally.
it works that way. That's how it always seems to me.
Oh my gosh, it was just kind of like all in my 20s, forging all these relationships with other musicians, so I could come to their city and be like, hey, I'm coming to your city.
I
Can you
know, I
Hit me
know.
up with a show.
No,
So,
that sounds great. That sounds great. I
I'm
hope
excited.
you go like wild on it and like is it it's by yourself or with
Yeah,
the
just
band?
me.
Okay, so you can do weird stuff where you like. I know you don't have to do this, but I tended to try to find more shows on the way.
yeah.
Stuff.
Oh, I have a show in Charleston, Illinois. I'm playing at an Irish night.
Oh, great.
I'm
That's
a little
awesome.
bit Irish,
Yeah.
so I figure I can play.
Is that late? Like a late show kind
It's
of in
like
a bar?
at a coffee shop from 5:30 to 7:30.
That's great. Even better. I love those shows now.
I know.
as
I'm
I get
excited
older.
for that one.
Yeah.
So then I'm gonna drive to Nashville right after. So
Okay.
yeah,
Good.
it was just kind of a in between show that I jammed in there somewhere.
If someone's listening, man, I mean, that's the best thing to remember. Yeah. I'm not going to assume all your shows are going to be small, but I'm just saying if it's a Midwest tour, it's like I know there is somebody in the back listening. Just remember that because
Yeah.
I stupidly podcasted my entire tour and I like recorded my reactions to each show and I probably shouldn't have done that. You know what I mean? Like, so I was like, these guys are cool, and then there was one where I was like, what's the problem? And I started like yelling at my mic. You know what I mean? Like,
Venting.
it's gonna be big ups and downs. Maybe that's just me. You'll come
Yeah.
back being no, Lee. I realized on tour that you're just insane.
Oh my gosh,
But-
yeah, it's gonna be a little tough, but
Yeah.
I know that.
But
And I
let me
like
know.
driving. I like taking long drives by myself. Like
Yeah.
I drove back from Santa Fe, New Mexico by myself. Took like the crazy roads in Kansas, and
Oh,
it
that's
was like the
beautiful.
Great Plains and me and a broken down Nissan Altima. So
You broke down.
no, I was like crossing my finger. My radio broke, and I was like, no. But then it started working again. It was like miraculous. But no, nothing happened. But it was really noisy. Yeah.
So you're here and now, and you're on your way to releasing a second EP. Talk about that, and would you like me to play any songs on this podcast from it, or is it not? It's recorded.
No, it's ready to go. Yeah, we can put a song
Okay.
on it.
What song are listeners about to hear?
Let's do Serene.
Serene came through the other day, tossed her pennies in the lake, and came to again with new dirt and new fairy tales. Had chased her away, and so while on the water, exhale, and then I say,
I'm so glad you said that one because I heard you play it on Makeshift and I was like, where is this song? I love
Oh, I'm
this.
so excited of the recording
Oh.
too. It turned out so good.
It is so like pretty and then a little bit creepy and they're like, you know, you're like,
That's me.
queen. And you're like, it does sound like somebody. What is that? I barely know. Like, there's some movie where the guy's like scrubbing his gun or whatever. He's like cleaning his gun. You know, it sounds like you're in the corner.
I was
like,
cleaning my gun while I
cleaning
wrote that song.
Oh, God. No, it's great. It's not that creepy, but you get a vibe.
Oh my gosh,
It's
it's
nice.
so creepy because we add like secondary vocals that are all like creepy highs.
What do you have to say about just, you know, nutshell what that song's about if you don't mind?
In a nutshell, it's about me fighting with my mental illness, I guess, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And just trying to convince myself that I'm okay because Serene is more like a character that I created. It's and it's like I don't know, a personification of feeling okay, and then you're always chasing it, and then it's like always keeping running away from you, and so it's almost like a beckoning for it to come back and stay, like that feeling of calm and okayness. So it's a song that's so like deep inside my psyche that it's almost like, oh my gosh, it's me, and I'm showing everyone, you know, the deepest, darkest parts of me, but it's very cathartic. Like this whole album is like a catharsis and almost like a more, I don't know, it's like Deep and Wild but with much more perspective and acceptance and I don't know.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, like I don't want to say maturity because I'm really not that. But it's more mature than Deep and Wild. And it's definitely in the production too, like I was like, hey, musicians, why don't we practice beforehand, you know, and then get the songs together. And so I wouldn't say they're like mulled over and like obsessed over, but they're definitely more put together. And it's like so much how I wanted it to be. It still has that quality of, you know, surprise, and like we weren't sure exactly how everything was going to turn out, but, you know, it's definitely like more prepared, and I'm so proud of it. I'm so excited for it to come out.
And what's the EP going to be titled?
Gracious Hum.
Okay, Gracious Hum.
Yeah. So
people look for that. Probably not far after this podcast comes out, it'll be somewhere. So make sure you look for that by Angie DeNicholas. You could put out like Deep and Wild over and over again and get away with it, but it's nice to hear that you are taking a little bit of a turn.
Yeah.
And I mean, by the way, man, you guys don't sound unrehearsed on that one at all. Like it sounds really tight on Deep and Wild. Yeah, I mean, maybe that's just me talking because all our stuff is kind of loose when it's recorded. But like, I mean, if you're saying now the next one's gonna be more professional, I'm like, okay. Either way, man, it's all good. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's great. And what's the EP? What is there anything the EP is just more specifically about overall, or does it jump all over the place aside from perspective and things?
Yeah, just about kind of like my life for the past year. And there's definitely highs and lows, and there's definitely still like the creepy darkness, but there's also like, I don't know, there's like strength in it too, and conviction, and it's just a lot of different sounding songs, I think, and some of them are very short and some of them are longer, but it's a good mix. It's like there's ones where I sing more in my head voice, so it's like a quieter, prettier sound, and there's a lot where I'm like growling, you know, and stuff like that. So it's a lot of different sounds.
That's cool.
And I want it to be kind of like up and down, and then like just come to a close and you feel like, all right, I just experienced the past year of Angie's life.
Wow. And then what stuff happened to you? Give me like 2 specifics of the past year. Give me the ones that you're least uncomfortable talking about. You know what I mean? Like,
Okay,
or the ones you're most whatever you want. I don't want to pry, but
well, 2 standout songs for me are Serene, and that one was about my struggle with OCD and just trying to come to terms with that. So it's definitely in there, like a falling apart and coming back together, for sure. Like, a lot of times I would think of that Coming Back to Life song from Division Bell by Pink Floyd.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Like, I would be like, that's my song, and I would just think
Okay.
about it. I wouldn't listen to it, I would just think about that song. And so, yeah, like the coming back together and accepting and being strong, like, oh my gosh, I have never been strong, I feel like, in my whole life, but in the past year, I've been, like, strong feeling.
Oh, good.
And another one that I like a lot is called Shimmer and Stone, and a lot of people have told me that they like that one, so I'm really excited. And it's kind of about finding a bright spot, and it's, I mean, I guess I'll just say, like, when I listen to Moonface, did you ever hear that album, Moonface? Julia with Blue Jeans on. It was like such a perfect album for that time in my life when I was in Chicago and everything. And I heard that, just the lyrics and the sounds, and it's just very pared down. It's just him and a guitar pretty much the whole time. I'm sorry, him and a piano. And just the words and the sounds just spoke to me so much that it was like it gave me strength. And I wanted to write about that feeling, like having nothing be going good, and then I hear this and I'm like, all right, I think I can do this. Like, I don't know why, because I never really had that feeling of like music saved you or whatever like that. I'm just like, all right, that's cool, but it never happened to me. But I was like, whoa, this is really cool. And I like the lyrics, and it talks about loving the house that you live in, like loving this body, this mind, and just working with it. And so it was such a great album. That's just what I needed. And that's what that song is about, is listening to that and being comforted and strengthened by it, I guess.
Something other than terror overtook me tonight. A synergy welcomed, begged for, belated. I took the shimmer. This moment, this memory, this melting, I remember. Ache without pain, familiar and yet so. Watch the city slip away when you sing a fade away into your world.
Some of my favorite albums I tend to find are just one person and a piano or one person and a guitar too. So I think that's why a lot of people I know right now at the ages you and I are, maybe I want to include Sam Goodwill in this, or the Zoo, or this long running bands. I know I should be naming more. I should be naming more like bands that are young and new, and try to keep my finger on the pulse. Like Colorblind is a new like pop punk band from Youngstown, and there's the Super Babes and bands like that are around. But I want to speak to the long running bands because I see all of us, third class included, like winding into like, hey man, introspective songs, like not all of them, but we're going to go into these like stark solo sounds, even if it is a band. And I think that's weird that all of us are going that same way. Like we're all like, I'm not saying your EP is not going to be rocking out sometimes. I'm sure it kind of is, but like there's probably moments where you really like are like, dude, this is a personal moment. I think we're all learning that together. I don't know if it's in the water or if it's just about getting older, but I think we're all, I don't know, maybe we all started thinking, yeah, man, we're the Clash or whatever, and then we're all kind of Cat Stevens now. We're like, to that kind of thing. Yeah, maybe that's the wrong band's name, but you get the gist of what I'm saying. So that's a nice thing to kind of have in common with people coming from a place where all of us probably felt pretty lonely when we started. Yeah, we're like, this music is really weird. Why do we sound this way? No one, all of us, you know what I mean? Like but you being like lazy, being, what are people gonna think? And us being like, why are we writing all these weird prog rock songs?
Totally.
Yeah.
But if you stick with it, then if you just pare it all down to like just the most, I don't know, the basic properties, it's you're still really good.
Yeah, you're still that same thing. And a lot of the songs are the same, and it's good though. That's a good thing. Like if you boil it down, you're like, I've been writing the same song my whole life, and I love that song.
Yeah, totally.
Like that's what's nice about it is
it's
that
like unplugged or something.
Yeah. You're just like, oh man, I thought I was just going wild and like just trying everything, but when you bring it all down, you're like, I mean, it's just this. There's only so far you can go, and it's a good song.
Yeah,
it's almost like what AC/DC knowingly did, where it was like, we're just not going to change, and I'm like, good. I don't want you guys to change. Go ahead, put out that same album. It's okay with me. I really want that.
Yeah.
Is there anything you want to leave listeners with? If there's anyone creative listening from Ohio, do you have advice for them as someone who has pursued the art that you love? Like just for people that might just be younger, starting out listening to this?
Yeah, I think what I found is always do it for yourself. Like never do it expecting anything. And if you do something that's true and genuine and true to yourself, then people are always going to respond in a positive way because they can feel that coming from you. So even if, you don't succeed the way you might have expected when you start, if you just keep at it, you're always going to create something that people are going to respond to. And that's always what I wanted to do, was just create something that people could either relate to or in some way just take something away from it. And just to never stop creating and always do it for you.
Great. And can you say, look, Mom, we're on a podcast? That's our sign out.
Look, Mom, we're on a podcast.
Hey, guys, thanks for listening. Again, make sure you search Angie DeNicholas on Spotify. Check out her Facebook. My face. Check out her MySpace. No, check out her Facebook. I think it's under Angie DeNicholas Music, her page. And just make sure you guys keep an eye out for the EP, and make sure you listen to her 2010 release as well. And then for listeners, longtime listeners who are trying to catch up, or new people who are like, you have more episodes, go to thirdclass.net or bullskit.com and find Nursery podcasts and see the backlog. It's like coming up on 80 episodes or something like that now. So go back and get lost in that. And we're sponsored by the Orange Avocado. That's raw, gluten-free desserts. Find them on Facebook. And the Speaking of Music show at YouTube. They talk about more broad music than we talk about, less local. They deal with like cultural studies of music, like Nirvana and stuff like that. So check them out, and everybody have a good day, and thanks for listening.
For the big league. Now the grown-up league is here. Lee. Meek. Mick.